I'm feeling really pleased with the result, and you guys get to see it first here. Today's van trip is actually a day trip. Friday is a non-desk day for me. I don't see clients on a Friday. So for me, it's a day to either catch up on creative work on the business, have a day to myself to do some healing work. So for me, coming out into nature with the van is a little bit like having a portable office. And so Sam and I got out here really early this morning. We were out here at about 5, which gave us plenty of time for a long morning walk, which really enabled us to set our intentions. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. I'm not sure what intentions Sam was setting today. Perhaps an intention to have a nice meal after his walk and a really good long nap. But for me, my intentions were really about getting into that creative zone, getting into the flow. I've got a couple of projects that I'm working on. Now that my first memoir is going to be coming out early 2023, I'm turning my attention to the sequel. And so for me, I'm out here with several copies of old diaries, just really beginning to plan what that sequel memoir is. When we have a career that enables us to work from home, what can happen is we get into this same old routine. So we find ourselves in the same environment every day, and therefore we find ourselves really vulnerable to the same procrastination habits, to the same modes of unproductivity, and we can tend to get a little bit bored of that home scenery, especially when we don't have that demarcation between when I'm at rest and when I'm at work. So for me, really mixing it up can be so effective to make sure that I have a day where I get plenty done. And here's the thing. When I'm coaching with my clients and we're looking at time management and productivity and procrastination, and at a certain point in the session, we always do a little bit of a brainstorm. I would say, without a doubt, every single client that I've coached in this area, as one of the options that they could possibly do to increase productivity is get out of the house. Take the laptop somewhere else. People talk about working in coffee shops, they talk about finding libraries. For me, it's about bringing my office out into nature. And so I'm really excited to see the productivity that today offers, but also just the general enjoyment of a day van trip, because it's not going to be all work and no play. And this is the other thing, when we get really effective at our work, we find that we certainly don't need to put in as many hours in the day, which of course leaves the rest of the day for play.
Life keeps spinning, no one's winning. Are we ever gonna stop pretending that there's no ending, there's no mending? When is this bubble gonna pop?
So Sam and I have just finished our beautiful morning walk. I've got time for meditation. I'm going to have a lovely luxurious breakfast, and then I'm going to start really stepping into that flow state and beginning to get things done. The first thing that I'm going to work on today is going through my old journals. It's really lovely to come out here to do this without any distraction, because, and you might be able to relate to this, sometimes when we have a task that we want to do and we have a sense that the task is large or overwhelming, or it brings feelings of discomfort, what then starts to happen is we begin to procrastinate, or it's very easy to get distracted. Now, I've got a lot of journals that covers the period that my next memoir is going to be exploring. And there is a sense that there are many pages in the journal which won't be relevant, but it might be that a whole section of pages might not be specifically relevant, but there could be one or two sentences that I need to pick out. So there is a sense that I'm going to have to be very focused and read through all of the journals, even if what I end up coming out with is just a few sentences from whole sections of journal. And so because I come out here where there is literally no distraction, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no phone signal, it's just me and my journals and this beautiful, inspiring setting, it really helps my mind focus to get the job done. And so for me, I think that's one of the number one factors for productivity, where you want to put yourself in an environment where those distractions don't exist. Because if we do sense an uncomfortable task, what the brain is going to automatically do is seek to find a way out of it. We're designed to find a way out of discomfort and to seek pleasure. But that's the beauty of having a day trip with the van. Like, I've really treated myself to this whole experience. I'm making it quite symbolic. There's lots of self-care involved. And so right from the start, my brain doesn't have that same, I want to get out of here, because it's actually really loving being in the setting that I've put it into. That's another tip if you're wanting to be really focused and productive, to really make it a ritual. Like, don't come to your work with a sense of like, what a drag, I want the day to be over, but seek to find a way to make the day special and also mix it up, like get out and about to do your work. We don't have to be online for every single aspect of our jobs if we have those sort of freelance work from home careers. And so I find it's really useful to look at the aspects of your working day where you don't have to be connected and actually really specifically disconnect from that. The other final tip, and this is something that I'm going to be doing throughout the day, is to employ what's called the Pomodoro. So the Pomodoro is a really beautiful productivity technique. I think I first found out about it on YouTube, actually. And it's a technique that I use in my group coaching program, where we all gather online on Zoom for a period of time. We usually do it for around about an hour and a half, and we do a series of Pomodoros. And so a Pomodoro is a 25-minute burst of work followed by a 5-minute breather. And so when I hold that space for my coaching clients, we start the session with a 10-minute guided visualization or meditation to really bring that focus into the mind. Then we set our timers, but before we start the 25 minutes, we set our intention for what we're going to do in that 25 minutes. And then we have that 5-minute break. So that's what I'm going to be employing today. 25 minutes of reading the journals and making notes, and then 5 minutes of beautiful break time in this lovely space. Probably some play with Sam, some enjoying of the sunshine, and just some really beautiful appreciation of the silence in the space. The mistake that people can make is that in that 5 minutes of downtime, they're like, oh, I'll just jump online and I'll check my email and I'll jump onto YouTube. But what that means is the brain doesn't get that break. It's constantly being used and you don't have that reflective time. So when we do take that 5-minute break, it's really important to actually make sure that it is a break. So we actually step away from our work, we step away from our devices, and we have that beautiful downtime. And in that 5 minutes, we're allowing for the mind wandering to take place. We're saying to our brain, okay, for this 5 minutes, you don't have to focus on anything. And then that means that we come back for the next Pomodoro feeling refreshed. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to do 3 Pomodoros while I go through the journals, and we'll see what happens. I've just come inside for finishing off. It got beautifully sunny and warm, but actually the van has stayed gorgeous and cool. There's a lovely breeze coming through it. So I have finished my Pomodoros and reading through my journals, and I have to say it was so beautiful to have that focus. And also I've actually made an intention to spend more time reading my journals just on a random basis, because there were moments where I got to journal entries and what I was reading felt really serendipitous for for what's going on in my life right now. For example, I'd actually brought a journal with me that goes beyond the period that I want to be writing about in my second memoir, but when I saw it on the shelf, there was something about it that made me want to bring it. I was like, oh, let me just bring that one too. There's a quote on the front of the journal: "Clarity comes from engagement, not thought." And it reminded me that I was writing this particular journal over 3 years ago now, when I was doing Marie Forleo's B School. And Marie Forleo was one of the coaches that really set me on the path of being a life coach. And I thought to myself, oh, let me just grab that one and flip through it. I opened it up and I came to a journal entry that talked about reading a book, and it is a book that just recently I've decided to read again. It's Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And for me, it was just such a lovely way of seeing how far I'd come, but also it just felt like a really beautiful sign. When I was reading my journal entry from 3 years ago, it really reminded me of what an incredible impact his work has had on my own personal development, the meditation processes that he teaches, and the way he explains how we can completely get stuck into being an automatic version of ourselves rather than the present moment version of ourselves. And it just feels really relevant for me right now, because I'm going so deep into my personal work that I feel freer than I ever had. And because of my spiritual awakening last year, I really do feel like I'm coming to a place where I'm beginning to really sense my soul within me, and I now have the courage to take action on the urges and the desires that my soul has. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a longer break than the 5 minutes that I have when I finish my Pomodoros, and I'm going to head out. I'm going to do another little walk. Of Pomodoros, I'm actually going to start working on some content, and that was another reason I wanted to take this day van trip, to really help me focus, because I've come to a space where for me feels really integral to my journey as a content creator, as someone who has a presence online. I've made loads of videos around this whole space because it's really near to where I live, and it feels very, very close to my soul and what I love. It was really lovely to take this walk just a moment before really sitting down and focusing into the kind of content that I want to create, because it really helped remind me of what got me started as wanting to be a writer, wanting to be a life coach, wanting to have a YouTube channel. But also it's reminded me of the journey over the years, and the most significant point of my journey last year, when increasing stress and really increasing levels of burnout led to my spiritual awakening, when I began to think, who am I and why am I doing this? And I really began to wake up to my true self, and not wanting to hustle anymore, but wanting to really tune into my soul and trust that there was another way of living and working. And that was one of the reasons that I wanted to get this van. I'm excited to see, as I sit down and create, what kind of content comes out of it. I'm also going to be using my journals, because I've been mining my journals from the last year or so for phrases and sentences and insights. So I'm going to be going through my notes from earlier, but also creating new content and creating new images. So I feel like it's going to be a really fun couple of Pomodoros. Well, it has been a really successful content creation session. I did a few Pomodoros, just really going through my diaries, putting some images and some videos together. And I'm feeling really pleased with the result. And you guys get to see it first here. Head back out for the relaxation, that reward. And for me, this is why it's so beautiful when we can tap into habits of productivity so that we aren't procrastinating. Because let's face it, the time that we spend procrastinating is never enjoyable. But if we can get to our work straight away, then what that means is we have time at the end that is enjoyable, for pleasure, for fun. It has been such a special day trip in this van. It's really confirmed to me my intuition, because this is the first day trip I've taken, but for a long time since before I bought the van, I really had a sense that taking it for this micro adventure was going to be just as rewarding as a long road trip or a holiday away. And it really says to me there are going to be plenty more of these day trips to come. Day trips for pleasure, for holiday, for enjoyment, but also day trips for productivity. It's been such a special work day, and to be honest, it really hasn't felt like a work day. I've really loved going through my old journals. I found some really inspirational journal entries that have really reminded me of the path that I walk, and it's been so fun to create content from them. It's been fun to give you a sneak preview of that content. I'm feeling so enriched, I'm feeling so uplifted, and I know that by the time I get home tonight, I'm really going to feel that I've spent longer than just a day away. Just that sense of having been completely washed through from changing my surroundings. And also, it didn't have to be that dramatic. Like, this is a place I come to most days to walk my dog, but just spending a different version of that time here, i.e. bringing the van, bringing my work, bringing snacks and my favourite drinks, and really feeling like it was all about creativity, all about really tapping into my soul's desire to do the work that I do, has been so special. So can't wait to see you on the next van trip, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What did you get from this video? What did you learn, if anything, and what would you love to see more of? Wishing you so much love, my dearest friends, my dearest creative souls. Take care.